I've got to believe.
There he goes, Robert O'Connor. And it's unusual because Robert's in the studio to look at somebody actually listening to themselves and bopping away. So Robert, how are you?
That's the funny thing is, you know the way people say they don't listen to their own music?
Yeah.
I must be just a complete narcissist because I actually love listening to these tracks, particularly the more electronic stuff.
Yeah.
Because it's the style of what I'd listen to myself anyway.
Well, that's what we were having a chat.
Yeah.
If you want to say off air, and that was it your first collaboration with
Skynam GT?
Skynam GT, which was the mix of Real Good Fight.
Yeah, it was, and it was like a really kind of happy accident because I didn't know who he was, he didn't know who I was. I ran a competition. I told you about this the last time, but for the listeners' sake, I ran a competition on my Instagram page, which was a suggestion of another producer who was too busy to work with me, and he said, if you want remixes, there's tons of people out there crying out to work with, pop artists. And so I had the vocal stems and I had all the individual bits of the track basically, which I always ask for when I work with a producer, just to have for later. It gives you more possibilities. So I put this post up on Instagram, and then the producer who suggested it put on his Instagram. Mine got a few responses, and then when he posted it, just went off crazy. It was like my Instagram DMs were just going like, I had about 50 entries to do this remix, and that was the winning remix that was sent to me. And actually over the process of Jordan, Skynam GT, making that remix, we ended up kind of working on it in the sense that, I won't say I co-produced it, but he would send me a lot of components of the remix, and I would say, no, I prefer this synth there. So I had a bit of a hands-off element of production.
And were you worried at the start when you were doing this remix competition that you wouldn't get anybody, or you might get one or two people?
I had done remixes for my first 2018 single, You Found Me, a year beforehand, and I had 4 remixes for that, and I had got about 7 or 8 entries, I think it was. And so I think I was confident that I'd get a few, but I was worried about the quality, because you always think, sometimes you hear somebody's work and you think that's reflective of their whole work, but sometimes they can just be lucky, or it can be a good match. So there were people who then didn't necessarily feel like Real Good Fight was a remixable track for their style, whereas Skynam GT came in and he was like, I want to make a tropical EDM track out of this, and he saw it as a challenge for him personally, but like straight off it was clear that we fit very, very well. And that's why we've gone on to do something else together. Yeah,
because I saw in the sort of your bits of press release that the two of you just gelled, and just going back to where you said about that song Real Good Fight being remixable, if you want to use that, if there is such a word. I don't know whether
I just invented it.
You just invented it, great. But would you say, looking at your catalogue of songs, would you say you could look at them yourself and say which ones could be remixed and which ones not, or would you say
I would say
give them all a go?
The first thing I would say when I look at my catalogue is this guy has a borderline personality, because everything is so erratic, and I think previously there were kind of eras where it was like, okay, that was my more indie pop phase, and then last summer there was never an intention to, I suppose, go electronic, but it came about through that remix, and then it was kind of like, what next from there? I had so much fun with it, and it felt so like electronic has always been part of my musical DNA, and I kind of wanted to bring a few things together. Like with the original version of Real Good Fight, it was a case of bringing some of the country songwriting elements. If you listen to Real Good Fight, the lyrics, it is kind of a country song lyrically, but when you bring all those synths in, even in the original version, it kind of is a hybrid of country and then EDM as well. So I wanted to fuse those sounds, and a lot of people said to me, you can't. And I was kind of like, well, I'm sure there's other acts out there, like even if you look at like Post Malone, where he brings in the hip hop and rap elements, and then there's this random soft rock backdrop, and you kind of think, I never heard that before. And then hip hop and country, you can do anything.
Well, I was saying to people about 3 or 4 weeks ago, I played a song, and I'd never heard the genre before. The band, to give you an idea what the song is, the band was called Sitar Metal.
Right.
and it's actually heavy metal played
With
on
a cross-
sitars,
Right. Wow.
and it's absolutely brilliant.
That's a niche.
You know, it's definitely neat, and
Yeah.
they're very, very, very successful. So, do you find, since you've moved into the electronic, that you've maybe found your natural home?
See, I think when I sit down and write a song, naturally I go towards quite structured, like 3-minute pop songs, right? But lyrically, I always write kind of these very small town story type songs, which is very country. So there is a bit of a crossover there. But I always question, when I write a song, I do question the genre of it. Not first, but when the lyric is done, the lyric very much comes first, vast majority of the time. And then you'll get times, like with Real Good Fight, where they both just came together. And you don't know where the melody came from. It wasn't like I sat down at a keyboard or a guitar and wrote, in a specific key or a specific time signature. It was like this vocal melody just came. I actually wrote Real Good Fight as a kind of social experiment for myself. It was like, what I sat down and said was, I wonder what it would sound like if the Chainsmokers released like a country track, like a country EDM track. And that was kind of the brief in my head. I like to give myself little briefs, or if I kind of think, who would I write this song for? I don't always write it with myself in mind even. So every song is a new kind of challenge. But yeah, I think it is not a natural fit for me. And in the 90s, I would have listened to a lot of electronic pop, and even now, like, I'm a huge Pet Shop Boys fan.
Because we were talking about the new album.
Oh,
It's just
absolutely,
mad.
wild for the new album. The whole Stuart Price trilogy that they've done, I love Stuart Price as well. Sometimes I equally love the producers as much as I love the bands. I love William Orbit. I love a lot of German and French house music, and just like I listen to instrumentals alone a lot of the time as well, which that sets me off on a songwriting path a lot of the time rather than listening to bands.
Well, the end of my show, letting people know, the last song on my show, on this episode of Ultrasound, is Tangerine Dream.
Oh wow!
Their new, I think they have a new album out or something like that. So it's Los Santos Map or something like that.
Okay.
I'm not looking at it. I'm trying to remember. From it. But you were talking before we came on air. You were talking about songwriting, and even maybe talking about travelling.
Yes,
going to Berlin.
It's a secret. No, I was saying after I listened to the Pet Shop Boys album, and I think you get different soundscapes from different places. And I previously recorded in Amsterdam with a Moroccan producer, and he totally changed my kind of my outlook in the studio. So I find personally that Irish producers, at least the ones that I've worked with, they've all shared a couple of traits, and they tend to be they're usually classically trained. They have a certain way of doing things that can be quite regimental and can be quite, their approach to things is not methodical, but it's like they're always hugely professional, right? And usually quite accomplished, and they've worked with lots of different acts because it's a small scene. If they're anyway good, they'll have worked with a lot of the bands that have already kind of made it, and that we've probably grown up with ourselves. So you kind of feel a certain amount of pressure when you go into them of like, oh shit, I really have to perform here because this is a big deal. Whereas if you go and work with an underground total unknown, you feel a little bit liberated and a bit like, this is experimental and it's just
Shackles
for fun.
are off.
Yeah, like I would never usually write songs in the studio. I would normally go with the song finished, and then it's like you build it up from the ground in terms of the actual the musical instruments. Whereas in Amsterdam, I would go in and they would play like this loop, or they would play an electronic track or an urban track. Like I did a bit of experimentation with some urban stuff over there, which I never thought I would have done. And I just wrote there and then like full songs in the studio in a matter of minutes. So it pushed me to places I didn't know I could actually go.
And as you said with the songwriting, you go and have the song fully done. Do you go in two questions? In the future, is there any plans to either co-write with somebody or let people to write? And then when you go in with the song, is it just the lyrics, or do you have a rough demo played on piano, guitar? Or?
It's lyrics and melody, to answer the second question first. And I'm quite controlling about my lyrics. So the reason why I have them usually completely written and finished, and normally they're months old by the time I will hand them over, is because I don't like people getting too involved in them, producers-wise. The only way that I've been fine with people getting involved is with Stuart Gray, who I worked with on the 3 singles last year. He would say, give me another verse. I need a third verse, or why don't you move that to there? And that's fine. So that's more arranging than, you know, co-writing, even though we are co-writers. Once you're in the room, you're kind of a co-writer, but I like his suggestions, and a lot of the time I'll come back and say, God, my favourite part of the song is the bit that he changed for me, you know. But what I don't like necessarily is going in with a blank page and a couple of jotted down ideas. And
it's just a comment
I
that
see that comment on the screen.
Dave Duggan would Rob co-write with me.
Before I get to that, what I do want to say is, as you can see, Gary, I'm here tonight with my friend Emma, who does photography for me. But actually, random fact, she sent me the verses for Destination Anywhere, a song that was on my first album many years ago. And I took that and I wrote a chorus to slot in with it. That was my first ever co-write. Because I loved the verses, and to give you an idea of how long ago it was, we sort of co-wrote it over MSN Messenger.
Right.
I think we were pretty much just out of school, or if even, and that was my first experience of co-writing, and it was a great one. And then I went to Amsterdam, and I had an opportunity to work with a producer, and he gave me this backing track that I had to write a track to, and instead of writing a brand new track, I took that track that we had written and married it with this music, which I still don't know today how it worked, but it was just the most perfect fit.
That's it. And then another thing I'm saying is you're on the live circuit, and you have, as it says here, a nice close-knit band of brothers, if you want to say.
I do, yeah, and
even
it's
though
like
Enna's here, but
people. Yeah, exactly. I have a nice team, but the lads in the band are great. Like, and we haven't seen each other since November because I've been doing this stuff with the remix, but we've been trying to organise a rehearsal, because when we do come back together, we want some purpose to it. So we're going to do a new YouTube series where 1 week it'll be an unplugged version of one of our own tracks, and the following week it'll be a cover done in our style. So it's in order to bring in more content and to, I suppose, pitch ourselves towards bigger things musically on the live scene, because at the moment you could kind of go around in circles playing the same places, playing the same nights, and I think you can fatigue yourself and you can fatigue the audience with the same set list, and it's not the way to go for me. I want to keep it fresh for people, including ourselves.
And speaking of fresh, tomorrow is the big day.
Yes, very fresh. I always end up in here the night before a single release.
Yeah,
the last time. It is. It's like the last stop.
So this is the new single is going to be out tomorrow, which is Older 20.
Yeah.
And it's another remix with your man.
Your man. Actually, somebody said to me, it was a presenter from RT, she was like, older 20. She was like, we're definitely older than 20. I was like, it's not to signify the age, it's the year, because Older is a song that was written years ago at a piano, and it was like an indie pop song. And when we decided that I wanted to work with Skynum GT again, it was like, well, on what? Because he lives in Peru. It was like, am I going to go and record a new song in Ireland and export it over to him and have him produce it? Or so while we were working all of this out, we said, let's take one of the previous songs and inject new life into it that probably most people that support me now haven't heard before. So this was a way to do it, and I mean, I prefer this version than the previous one, and like, I won't say commercially the response has been there, but definitely on like Instagram followers who've been there for a while have come to me and said, this is my favourite yet. Yeah,
because I must say, when you listen to the original Older, this one is, you know, it is really different. It's still, as you were saying, the sort of the core of the same song. But
it's the vocal and the melody is the same pretty much, but it's like
it's very different.
It's a totally different soundscape, you know, and it feels like 2020. It doesn't feel any way dated. It's like, to me at least, this feels like where I should be and what I should be doing at this point in time. The only thing that I see changing in the future is that I think it'll get more experimental, and that maybe the songs will be less concise. They might be a bit more sprawling, you know, because I'm not like with this, I did kind of think actually maybe some mainstream radio will pick up on this because of the fact that it's kind of trendy. It's a little bit, you know, Kygo. It's a little bit Chainsmokers, Avicii. It's parallel with that kind of sound. So I could see how it would fit on mainstream radio, but equally that isn't the kind of ambition that I have now. I definitely want to make music that feels I can look back in 10 years and be like, yes, that was the music I wanted to make.
And what's the after tomorrow then? What's the future? What's the future plans for Robert O'Connor?
So the future is get back on the live front with the band, plan our YouTube stuff that we're going to do. I'm going to start curating a lot more of my own content, and rather than relying on being invited on other things, is to create my own platform on the likes of YouTube. And I've just joined TikTok, and Instagram is still my main kind of following on there. I want to have constant video content and interesting things for people to look at and watch, and to see the development of new songs on there. I am due to go back into the studio for brand new material, which is always quite a quick turnaround for me. I don't spend months and months. It's usually like 2 weeks and we've a couple of singles done, if even. It's like 2 days vocals and a lot of pre and post production. So there'll be more singles this year. I'm still not looking at an album or anything like that. One thing I did say last year I really wanted to do, and I still want to do, is a live album, but I want to do it as like Robert O'Connor and band. So that would be a project for me and the boys. Take some old songs, some new songs, maybe some covers, create like a nice concise live EP that will showcase, because at the moment you can't see what we're like live, if you go on Spotify. They're two very separate entities, so I want to show that experience, bring them together.
And it'd probably kill us if we don't talk about your video.
Oh yeah. Oh, Dave Duggan's listening in. Actually, to answer the question earlier, of course I would co-write with Dave Duggan. So Dave Duggan's another friend of mine, an artist, a photographer, a videographer. He's lots of strings to his bow, but I can't get him. He's in the studio nearly more than me. Yeah. He was in a couple of weeks ago with Brew. But you can't get him to come in. And
I know he'll come in with Future Fears. They're supporting the Pale.
Yeah.
And stuff like that.
Oh, everything's kicking off for them now.
Yeah, and I was looking at the video. And I thought initially at the first I was trying to, and Dave will probably put some comment up or something about this. Yeah. But I was looking at the video and I was trying to grab my 3D glasses.
I know.
Yeah. I thought it actually trippy. Was in
that would have been 3D. A great idea. There we go, Dave.
So there you go, Dave.
We'll call you the next time.
Yeah.
But the thing with this video, actually, it was an accident, because we had filmed a lyric video a few weeks ago, about 4 weeks ago. And Dave texted me at about 2 o'clock in the morning, as Dave normally does when he's up editing, and he said, do you mind if I just go ahead with this video? And I said, we didn't shoot a video, Dave, it was just a lyric video. But he had all this footage left over from the day we did the lyric video, because we had shot me from different angles, and so me surrendering control was like giving me nightmares, but I managed to do it anyway, and I said fine, because I do trust him, and we've shot 4 videos together now, and a few lots of photos as well, so we work well together. So I was like, Grant, go ahead, give me a few hints. Of course, he wouldn't give me any hint at all, and then he said to me a couple of weeks later, I need you to come back, dress exactly the same, have your hair exactly the same, I need to shoot one little scene again. So I had to basically rewind the clock 4 weeks, go back in, do this scene. He edited it that night, and then basically I had it the next day, and
it's a great video.
Yeah, great so look, we've very limited resources here. You know what I mean? It's like there's no budget here. You're relying on a pool of creative friends, and I think in some ways it's stressful. The stressful end of things is the promo. The actual creative process is not stressful, because I'm lucky that I know the right people and I'm friends with the right people. But the promo side of things never gets easier, because aside from shows like yours that are specialists and obviously have their own following, it's very hard to find radio hosts who have that deep interest in music, who are curating something for their show where they'll have guests in, every 3 singles or whatever be it, to see where they are on their journey. I suppose a lot of them don't have the luxury. Even presenters that would have supported me a year or 2 ago, then they move to a slightly maybe bigger commercial station. They've no longer got the say of what they play. Like, I've good friends even in RTE who say, I can only play two songs that of my choosing. The rest of it's playlisted, you know.
Yes.
And it's just, it's sad.
I must say that's the one great thing here. Although Mairead, our station manager, says we can't play anything with expletives. Because poor old John would have to edit the podcast to get rid of all the swear word. But here, it's a free for all. You can just play exactly what you want. In that sense, shows like this are the tastemakers, because commercial radio, whether you realise it or not, are looking to all of these community shows in the same way that in the UK,
like the big commercial stations are looking to see what the underground stations are doing, what's cool, what's trendy, because they, like somebody said to me a few weeks ago, somebody that works in PR that I was talking to said, radio don't see it as their job to break you. You know, they don't even see it as their job to listen to your single, which actually is fair enough. They're not going into their desk in the morning and saying, I must open Robert O'Connor's new single because, you know, like, who, why, what, where, you know, it's like, why do they care? You have to give them a reason. I think the thing is an angle and a story, but you do exhaust a lot of options as you go through single after single and think, why is this, you know, interesting to people other than the song? The song becomes so secondary.
Yeah, and it's the story behind it and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So we're gonna finish up by saying we're gonna play the single that's out tomorrow, and it's on all platforms.
Everywhere.
Spotify,
Apple Music.
I don't
Tidal.
have Apple Music. YouTube.
And actually this time, TikTok and Instagram stories, you can use the track. And because I just moved distributor purely so that I could get the song on TikTok and Instagram, because my last 4 singles or whatever it was weren't on those platforms, and it was really starting to get to me, because those are important platforms, you know.
So watch this space. There's going to be stuff on Instagram, TikTok.
I'll be everywhere. I'll just be coming at you from all angles.
Yeah. So listen, thanks a million for coming in.
Thanks for having me.
Do come in again.
I will.
Do come in again when
Absolutely.
there's another, and we might even let Emma talk next time. Will we allow her?
She doesn't talk.
She doesn't talk. So look, we're going to finish with Older 20. Robert, thanks a million for coming in.
Thanks so
Best
much,
of luck
Gary.
with the single.
Thanks a million.